And so started STEMettes with £300 from O2.
£300 and an idea where...
million maybe a year. Yeah, like people really are allergic to seeing a black woman doing maths in trainers. It took to the end of 2025 for us to have a crash test dummy based on a woman's body. Till the end of 2025 for us to have a crash test dummy. I wasn't precocious. In fact, I was the class clown, and that was how they discovered my child prodigyness.
If you're Prime Minister for a day, what would you do first?
I'll make sure that this...
Hi, I'm Hayatan, and welcome to What We Don't Know, all about better leadership in a crazy, uncertain world. How do you go from being a child prodigy to an advisor to governments? What does it feel like to crunch the numbers on Countdown with that clock ticking? And how can we deliver more equitable outcomes from the march of technology? Well, I am so looking forward to exploring those questions and so many more with today's guest, Dr. Anne-Marie Imafidon. So here's what we know about Anne-Marie. She was a child prodigy in maths and computing, one of the youngest people to ever do A-level computing. She went on to study at Oxford and then had an amazing career spanning tech and entrepreneurship and social impact, public speaking, media work, advocacy, and so much more. She also created the STEMettes, which is a social enterprise to try to support and inspire girls and young women to pursue careers in STEM. And through that work, she's already reached tens of thousands of women and girls in the UK and beyond. And alongside that, Anne-Marie has become a really prominent and respected voice on topics around diversity and inclusion and equity, and really importantly, the future of work, topics that actually have become part of our national conversation. And I'm really looking forward to hearing more about her thoughts on those. So, let's go. Anne-Marie, welcome. I have a feeling you've got a naughty glint in your eye, and I have a feeling that I'm going to have to behave here because you're going to lead me astray.
Yeah, if at least one of us is behaving, then that's fine. That's good enough, right? Hey, viewer, sorry, apologies for what you're about to see.
I don't think we should apologise yet. It might be fine. Who knows?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
And it's genuinely a pleasure to have you here today. And I said, we can say like the last time we saw each other, we were at number 10.
Darling, yes, we were. And the time before.
You're there all the time, obviously.
I'm the landlord.
We usually start these conversations by just finding out a bit about what our guests do at the moment. Mm-hmm. And usually I kind of focus in on a particular job they have. But in your case, I cannot do that.
Yes.
You are like the embodiment of multi-hyphenate. It's quite hard to say. Multi-hyphenate careers.
Even harder to do, yeah.
Yeah. So can you give us an insight into, what are you doing all day, Anne-Marie, and what are the different hats you wear?
What am I doing all day?
Take a while.
I run all day. Yes. How long do we have? I run all day. So the main thing I do is run an organisation called STEMettes, which is girls, young women, young non-binary folk into STEM and STEAM. STEM being science, technology, engineering, maths. STEAM being art and design as inclusion, because that's where we believe is the true heart of innovation. And we go from 5 all the way up to 25 years old. So that's what I spend the majority of my time, technically 3 days a week. I don't know if folks know this, but 3 days a week, if it's my contract I have with STEMettes, my own organisation.
Do you still have the job title Head STEMette?
I do, yeah, always. The one and the only.
The one and only.
Yeah, one
the
and
OG.
only. Exactly. In the universe. I'm Head STEMettes. So I do that the majority of my time. I then it becomes murky on what the proportions really are.
Right, okay.
But then I do a split of appearances and boards and speaking. No. Then I do a split, and it's appearances and boards. God, this is hard. No. Then it's a split of appearances and boards. And boards is things like I'm the DSIT Women in Tech envoy, so I co-chair a task force.
Meaning the Department for
Science, Innovation, Technology. Yes.
UK government.
I chair the Institute for the Future of Work. I sit on Council at Research England. I am a Chancellor at Glasgow Caledonian University. So I have a number of different hats.
That's one of your days off, right?
That's one of the days, yes, off from STEMettes. And then the other days is appearances, which is kind of media, podcasts, stage. This is definitely appearances, yes. This is appearances. This is going in my time. I also time track, so this goes in my time tracker as appearances. But yeah, so that's stages, that's media, that's podcasting, that's TV.
And it is a really interesting question. How you work out like what adds up to one one career.
Yes.
What can you accommodate within one working week?
Yes.
So how do you know whether you can afford to take on another role? Do you have some kind of formula behind it, you know, mathematically gifted as you are?
Kind of, sort of, ish. Yeah, it's an art more than it is a science to balance them. Just because, to be honest, I do one thing. The one thing is I'm Anne-Marie. That's the one word I used to describe
myself. Not many other people well qualified for that role.
But there you go. Yeah, I mean, there are other Anne-Maries, but whether they do the Anne-Marie, who knows? The way that I balance it, so I have a very sophisticated system called My Assistant, and we work things out.
And this is a genuine assistant,
this
not
is
an
a human
AI
being.
assistant.
She's called Angie. Shout out to Angie. And Angie does the balance. And we have a tug of war.
Okay.
And we have a back and forth on... There are so many things that are very Anne-Marie to do. And there are only so many days in a week, in a month. So I actually track down to the number of working days in a month.
Okay.
And I plan a year in advance, then I plan a quarter, then I plan a month, then I plan a week, and then I plan a day. Yeah. And we make sure there's enough balance. And when it looks like things are too many, I either then start looking for what to cut or what to say no to, which on the appearances side is easier than the boards and STEMettes. So I either cut or I just, with abandon, say yes to things I think are cool, like today. I'm like, it's Hyton. Why wouldn't I go and sit and chat with Hyton?
You're basically telling me Angie didn't sanction this. Well, thanks, Angie. I thought you were my friend.
She doesn't sanction. Angie, like 50% of things that Angie sends to me are, please just say no. Like and it will always come into her because my inbox is on fire.
Yeah.
And so I'm not very good with emails because there's so many things that come in. And so if you really want anything to go get to me, send it to Angie.
Top tip.
But she will then send it back across and it comes in from Angie. So I'm like, oh God, this is,
I have to actually read this.
Look at this.
Yeah.
And I know she's chewed it and processed it. And then normally it is, for heaven's sake, say no. But there are such amazing and cool things that come in that I'm like, I wish I could be there. I wish I could do that.
What's the cool stuff that you can't say yes to that you'd like to do?
It's just being in cool places with cool people doing cool things.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff out there.
There's a lot of government stuff I get asked to do, even now. So one came in this morning. They're like, yeah, we'd love you to shape X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, gosh, I wish I could. No. I wish I could. And then it's like, well, actually...
But someone else is going to get that role, and then you can't be like, yeah, I declined it.
Yeah, but also I want to be proud of what I'm doing. So I need to make sure I've got the room to do it. So that's the other reason that I end up then saying no to stuff.
So, and since we're here, like we're going to talk about other things too, but I actually think what you're describing is something that lots of people are now encountering in their life. This idea of kind of linear careers, where you start doing a thing and you have one job title, and people say, "What do you do?" And you know exactly what to say. Like that's going to be less and less common. And there are already lots of us that sustain kind of multiple roles. You know, which hat are we wearing now? And in my mind, I always think about it as a balanced equation. You have to consider what the components are that add up to a kind of work-life existence that you enjoy.
Yes.
So what are the things you're looking for when you look at that whole portfolio, that whole kind of Anne-Marie pie? What are the key components, the key ingredients for you?
So I would say I add an extra dimension. So I have the work-life balance, and then I also add legacy is a really big component for me.
Yeah.
And so with the work-life balance, it is about, so always with anything anyone asks me to do, what's the time commitment? Like, well, how many hours a week, a month, how many days a year are we talking? Because that's part of this balance that I have. Is it something that's going to mean that Fridays, weekends are permanently committed to that? In which case that's a definite no, because I don't work Fridays. I do, but I don't work Fridays.
Okay.
And I don't work weekends. I do, but I don't.
Okay.
So I think that's part of it. I think the other thing though for me is this additive? So a lot of the work that I'm doing with the government now relies on work I've done already with STEMettes. And so then the amount of work I'm having to do, it's not like I'm starting from first principles on, I don't know, understanding how HEPs in England work, right? And what even are HEPs.
Yeah, I think you better tell our audience what HEPs are.
Is it something that already feeds into what I'm currently working on, or is it something that's completely new and very different? Is it something that is going to bring me more joy than what I have at the moment?
Yeah.
And also, is this something, which is a legacy piece, that actually in the whole of time and eternity, this is something I have to do, which was what the latest government role that I did accept was, the envoy, was I co-chair a task force and work with the Department for Science, Innovation and Technology on women in tech, the proportions of women entering tech, staying in tech, and leading tech. And this is an 18-month, which is also good because there's that time commitment piece. Working alongside the Secretary of State, who has come up with this idea herself and is co-chairing the task force alongside me.
Yes.
So it's important to her. And so it's like, wow, in the whole of time and eternity, I've not had a minister
I think that
be this serious about this. And also say, hey, Anne-Marie, will you lead this with me? And so it was like, wow, as much as I actually don't have capacity for this, there's things I'm going to have to kick out in order to make this happen, because if I don't do this, then what was the point of the last 13 years? Yeah. And what will be the point of the next 30 years if I haven't taken this with two hands?
Yeah, no, I totally get that. And it feels like there's something there around what's the alignment with Anne-Marie?
Yes.
And what's the ROI of your Anne-Marie-ness?
Yes.
If I put it here rather than somewhere else.
Exactly.
Very cool. Right. Well, the next stop on the What We Don't Know tour is generally childhood. Now, this is unusual because most guests are like, oh, I'm going to learn lots that I didn't know. And I probably have a false sense of already knowing something about
like,
you.
we've had this before. They already know. Let's fast forward, folks.
We're not doing this. We're going to stop here. We're going to dwell here and we're going to learn something new here. So you're the first guest that I think is routinely described or has routinely been described as a child prodigy. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about that title? And how did it come about?
Oh, I don't know how it came. I was a child, so I don't remember many of the things that were part of how it came about. The child prodigy label for me now just feels funny because when you say child prodigy, people expect a child. And I've not been a child for quite a while now.
I guess on accuracy grounds, I can understand that it does feel strange to still be called a child prodigy.
But it's genuinely funny in the response. So people, literally, I would show up in places and people expect like Harry Potter. Like the original. It's a bit like the guy that plays Harry Potter. I forget his name now. Daniel Radcliffe. Like he will show up in places. And he hates that people are like, like you're a man. He's like, yeah, of course I'll be a man. For me, it's the same kind of thing and it's not that I hate it. I just find it hilarious because then that genuinely people are expecting a small person with glasses to show up.
Yeah.
To the point that sometimes they're disappointed. So I said this to someone that approached me. There was something they were doing on Hermione, who I'm actually not a Harry Potter fan. Apparently she's precocious or something and very smart and blah, blah, blah.
That's right.
And so on that premise, they were like, oh, we're doing this thing on Hermione. There's a new show, or West End show or whatever it was. We'd love to talk to you about being a real life Hermione. And I was like, great, okay. So we get on the phone. She's like, so you were precocious? And I was like, no, I wasn't precocious. And I didn't like doing it. And I actually didn't like reading. And I didn't. And in the end, they were like, okay, we're going to go with somebody else. We're going to go and scramble and find. So what's funny about the child prodigy thing is folks have such a clear, concrete image of what that looks like. And then I show up.
Yeah. So we're all projecting something onto you that is completely irrelevant to the actual childhood you had. So put us straight, Anne-Marie.
But also the fact that I'm no longer still a child. I didn't wear glasses. I wasn't precocious. In fact, I was the class clown, and that was how they discovered my child prodigyness. It was, for goodness sake, Anne-Marie, there were 30 in the class. And so when I'm teaching or when we set the exercise for everybody, you have to not distract them by telling jokes.
So you were bored, essentially.
I was bored.
Yeah.
I was really, really fortunate, though, that they saw it as boredom, not a behaviour problem, which I'm very, very aware as a little black girl in East London, showing up in those classrooms and being disruptive. There are other conclusions that they could have drawn.
And presumably your parents were key to the response to that observation that you were not being stimulated by what you were getting in class.
Yes. And so it was the parents and it was the teachers. There's a particular guy who I almost every day now, anytime I'm doing an appearance, I feel like we talk about Mr. Davies.
Mr. Davies.
From St. Saviour's in the 90s. We don't know where Mr. Davies is. We've tried really hard to try and find him. But someone like that saying, hey, she's bouncing off the walls. I actually need to teach the other kids. Yeah. But I've heard this thing where they do accelerated education for certain kids on particular subjects. Mm-hmm. So if you guys are okay with it, I'm happy to give a slightly higher maths so that I can focus on teaching everybody else. And so that was where it started, which my parents were like, okay, cool. Like, that sounds cool. That sounds interesting. That sounds like something that, okay, fine. If that's going to work, then we will lean into this. We'll nourish this. Her doing education is good. Yeah. And her doing more education is great.
Yeah.
And even more so if you've said it, you know, it's not because everybody thinks their child's a genius.
Special.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so I was really fortunate in that was what it was. So then that meant that by year 6, I'd done the 2 GCSEs, one in maths and one in ICT.
Amazing.
Which was hilarious for me as well. So I'd said this time and time again. I didn't write it thinking, God, yeah, I'm going to pass this. I wrote it thinking, wow, okay, cool. This is like new stuff that I've learned.
Yeah.
And these quadratic equations are kind of cool. Circle theorems, not so much. The stats are great. I'll sit and do this paper. ICT as well was still brilliant. I still love the tech, as we know, as we can see. And so wrote those papers and didn't think anything of it.
And at that age, you don't know what to expect, do you? You haven't been conditioned to think, oh, this is an exam, I feel a certain way.
Exactly.
And your parents managed to not create a feeling of pressure or expectation around that.
Which my parents have been excellent at. And also I think I met them part way on that, because I also have I don't have any expectations of most things that I do and engage in life. Some would say is a bit of a weakness of mine, but some would say it's a strength. But it was great because then you write uninhibited. And if I'd have failed the exams, a 10-year-old failed these. Like that's not news.
No.
Nobody. That was the whole point. So then the pressure in the biggest sense was off. And so when the results came back, it was like, wow, really? Okay. I wonder if they knew that a 10-year-old had written that. But also, what? I'm going to go to McDonald's. What? No washing up for a week. More exams. Give me more exams. Who knows what else I might get from sitting down and doing these papers. And then the A-level in computing was the one that then came next. So this child prodigy
and remind us
thing.
How old you were?
11. But this child prodigy thing. So for me now, it's quite funny because people are expecting a child to show up. But it's also weird, because I'm also now running STEMettes super aware that I was really fortunate in that was seen, like I said, not as a behavioural problem, but then I was given the opportunity. Yeah. And we say this, you hear it all the time, right? Talent is evenly distributed, opportunity is not. And it's so clear to me now in running STEMettes and doing the programs. We run things called certification academies every half term, apart from the exam one, because then they're actually doing exams. And it's so clear to me, and literally I was with 2 of our STEMettes yesterday at GCHQ for a thing that was going on there that was half secret, half not, which was really funny, kind of talking them through, what that meant when they were like, don't say any of this outside the room. But it's real certifications with real certification providers like QA, like the Open University, that we are allowing these teenagers to write without saying, have you passed this GCSE? Can you do this test? Do you think you're smart? No. Are you available for the half term? Can you make it to this building? Even if you can't make it to the building, we'll probably pay for your train ticket. Yeah. And we will probably send you a laptop as well to do the project work in Python or whatever it might be. They get these real certifications. And there's not as much fanfare because they've done it as a group of 8 or 10 or 12 of them over a half term. They've got the Agile, they've got the Python, they've got the cyber, they've got the data, they've got the AI. Yeah.
But it's no fanfare. It's normalised, and, this sort of relationship with these moments of high intensity, high pressure, I think have created in some people's minds a sort of negative association with doing exams or passing things that give you credentials. Yes. And I guess this is sort of the antidote, that you just make it a thing you do in a supportive environment. Great when you get it, and if it doesn't work out, no problem. On to the next, and you do the next one. And so I definitely saw the difference when I then came to year 11, and I had a bit of a year 11 for me wasn't really. In the end, I had 7 GCSEs that I decided to do in year 11, a couple of AS modules or 2 A-level modules as well. Because who'd have thought you can't go to university with 2 GCSEs and an A-level, and you need English in this country at least. So I already had maths, but there you go. But it's so interesting how even then all my mates were still, stressing out, and I was like, well, a lot of this is optional. A lot of this I'm just doing because, I'm the eldest of 5, and we can't all uproot and go to Oxford this year because Anne-Marie, didn't want to be bored in her classroom. And so I'm super, super aware now, and it's why I do so much of what I do, that this is about opportunities, about giving people opportunity, because who knows what other genius is, genii, whatever who knows who else, given those opportunities, could do transformative things.
That because of the way the system works at the moment and the, all the other things that we know are kind of bad in the world, those things don't happen.
So you've got this kind of maybe innate sense of agency, because when you're talking about how you navigate a childhood and things, you're talking about it in a way that is considerate of other people. But, it sounds like you had clarity in your own head about the decisions that you were taking from quite a young age, whereas lots of people are kind of consumers of the education system without feeling they have choices.
Yes.
And you've talked about how you weren't doing this because there was this desire for you to, be held up as a child genius or something. But at the same time, when you have these real outlier achievements, expectations are created in other people and sometimes in yourself. So when you looked ahead at kind of career, were you able to just sort of feel as free about that as you sound when you're talking about those kind of early childhood years?
Yes. At 13, in the same school, in the secondary school, so there used to be this thing called Connections, which was like our careers advice, our national careers advice service.
Yeah.
Who they'd give you a card.
Don't remember careers advice. They'd
give you a card. Connections was great with 2 X's. It was absolutely great. They'd give you a card. You get like money off in Topshop or whatever on the weekend. It was absolutely brilliant. There was a survey that we had to do once.
Oh yes. Oh no, I did. Yeah, I remember. Now it's come back to me. I don't think it was called Connections, but it's come back to me. Keep going.
And in that survey, it was, do you want to work outside? No. Do you want to work with dogs?
Yeah.
No. All that kind of stuff. Do you like maths? Yeah. And at the end, it was like, okay, you should be a systems analyst.
Ooh.
Or a management consultant. I think management consultant might have been ahead of systems analyst. And this was great because it didn't just say, here's your life, like print it out on a receipt, go and, check that in somewhere. It was like, okay, cool. Here's like a dossier on what management consultants do, how much they're paid, all that kind of stuff. And I remember reading it and thinking, okay, cool. This is £100,000 as a salary. That is great. That's a great number. I'd love £100,000 as a salary, first off. Secondly, if what you've written here is to be understood, then I could be a management consultant for Sainsbury's. And it was Sainsbury's. I don't know why, but since it was Sainsbury's. It's like I could be a management consultant for Sainsbury's and then I'd help them out. And then that would mean that I didn't need to pay for my groceries, which would mean that the 100,000 would stretch even further. And so that at 13, I was like, I'm going to be a management consultant. Sainsbury's is going to be the client. And then in the same dossier, which now I don't know if it would happen. I don't think they'd be allowed to do this. On the same dossier, they then said, you're much more likely to become a management consultant if you have an Oxford University degree. Wow. And I remember they had a woman who'd done chemistry.
Yeah,
who'd done chemistry at Oxford, who was now management. She was a case study.
Yeah.
Who'd now and I remember, chemistry, like chemistry. You're not consulting on chemistry, whatever. So I was like, brilliant. So whatever I do at Oxford. So at one point I was going to do French at Oxford, but I was like, whatever I do at Oxford, it's fine because then I'll be the management consultant.
It's just a means to an end,
right? And so that was it at 13. By 16. I changed my mind ever so slightly.
Okay.
Because I'd done
Sainsbury's was no longer so important in your life?
Well, basically, so I didn't know about investment banking because that wasn't on the list. Okay. But by 16, when the Windsor Fellowship, shout out to them, I'd done a work experience at Deutsche Bank.
Okay.
And so then I was like, okay, so these guys do this whole money thing. 100,000 is a big number. But I guess it would be bigger because how much do you spend on things in Sainsbury's versus how much do they spend on things? And so at 16, I was like, I'll be a management. And so every 3 years, probably still till now, I changed my mind completely because the world opens up.
Yes.
Things change.
Yes.
And I'm like, I didn't know at one point. And then we should stop this. We should stop this line of storytelling. At one point, I ended up being invited to, it was like a launch of something at Shoreditch House.
Yeah.
The members club.
Yeah.
I remember going to this building thinking, gosh, what is this? And I'm in East London now, so I'd have gone past this 100 times in my life. Because Deutsche was also around the corner. So I'd have seen this building but never known what was in there. And got in and was like, wow. Did a bit of research. I was like, who knew members clubs were a thing? So then, for that 3 years, I was going to launch a members club.
Wow. Okay, I feel like I could subliminally plant the seed for the next chapter of your career.
Why not?
I'm open. Thinking hard enough.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm mainly thinking is, I really didn't have the quality of careers advice you had, and it was wasted on me too. Do you know what mine were?
What was yours?
Forensic scientist, fashion designer, and then international relations.
It's not too late for any of those. International relations you're probably closest to.
As kind of attainable career goals.
Yeah.
They were odd, I'm going to say, and quite eclectic. I think I was confused.
Because no, you're eclectic. This is it, multi-hyphenate. That's the joy of work. This is what we talk about now. This is the joy of work. Everyone's upskilling, reskilling.
I know, it's this whole thing of what do you want to be when you grow up.
You know, the AI is not going to... Yeah, exactly. The AI is not going to fashion design for all of us.
I have lots to get through. And I've got one more. I'm going to give you a little... I'll take you back in a memory lane.
Okay.
So you give your STEMettes fantastic experiences in STEM, but you must have gone on school trips and stuff like that. What's your most memorable school trip?
Oh God, not for the same reasons. And this doesn't happen on STEMettes school trips, by the way. I'll make sure this trauma never happens to anyone else that's in my care.
Okay, so we'll just do the health and safety notice.
Thank you.
Right. What's coming?
In secondary school. This could have been year 8, could have been year 9.
Okay.
I think it was a geography
right
school
at the start
trip.
Of secondary school.
Exactly. So yeah, 12 or 13. Probably not 14.
Yeah.
Years old.
I'm visualising
little Anne-Marie,
Prodigy.
not grey hair, wearing blue uniform. I hated my uniform. When I go into schools, I always include a photo of me in my secondary school uniform. And it's specifically, and the teachers always looking at me like, what is she talking about? It's specifically because I had to wear a kilt every single day to school.
Kilt?
I wore a kilt in East London every day to school. I wore a kilt with stripy white bottom, and I always wear it because I hated that school uniform. And I show it to the kids because I'm like, just in case you hate your school uniform, firstly, you're not on your own. But secondly, there will come a time in your life where you don't even have a kilt in the house.
Okay, all right.
Anyway, I'm sat there in a kilt.
Trigger word for you. Let's move on.
In the kilt. At the Greenwich Observatory, Greenwich Mean Time Observatory,
classic
South East London.
Yeah.
Not that far for us on a school trip. And for some reason, so we'd gone around the whole thing. Yeah, time, blah, 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 time zones.
Yeah, stand on the meridian line.
Longitude, blah, 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 blah. And then it's lunchtime. And we've got packed lunches. And for some reason, I don't know, maybe there's too many of us. Maybe the weather was just so nice. Who knows? We have lunch outside. So we're sat on the hill. There's a huge hill. Just outside it, that kind of then goes down to where they did the horses things for the Olympics. So I'm sat up on the hill, and we're sat in a circle, cross-legged on the floor, eating our sandwiches.
Yep, I can visualise it.
And we're kind of just chilling, chatting, teenage girls, about all the things that are very important in life.
Yes, I can just imagine.
And I then look up, I feel this sense, this rumbling coming up in my body, and I look up from my sandwich or whatever I was eating, and I see a huge dog galloping towards me from across, and bear in mind the park is huge, so there's quite a distance, this dog, but it's coming straight at me. I don't know what I had in my sandwich, like dog food, who knows, right? So this dog is galloping towards me, and you have fight or flight, and I just had freeze.
Oh no, I didn't learn about that one in biology.
I wish they had.
Are you sure you weren't preparing to fight?
I don't know what I definitely didn't fight. So all my friends' flight was their response.
Oh, and you were just sitting
some
there,
left their lunch,
dogs...
others took their lunch, whatever, and I froze in the moment, and I was stuck there. And
please tell us it was all right. And the dog
didn't maul me or anything. It was the galloping, and it was the excitedness, and then it just bounded all over me.
It probably just wanted to lick you or something, didn't it?
The sandwich, or the either way. Since then, dogs have not been. I mean, I guess I maybe don't mind them now.
Oh well, I was once. This has gone down in family folklore. I was once chased into the duck pond in Hyde Park by a goose, and I still feel the humiliation.
Have you been
terror.
back to Hyde Park?
Many times, but really? I don't trust geese, and I never will.
No, I don't think geese are an animal that needs to be trusted.
All right, well, we've done the animal story, so our producers will be happy, right? Okay, we're going to get back on track. So let's fast forward into your kind of career itself. Mm-hmm. How did you first experience leadership? When you think about what was the first time you thought, "Oh, I'm interested in leadership," or I have a responsibility that I can associate with being a leader.
So there are two initial times that come to mind. The first one was there is a fantastic woman called Sonia Meggie, who now works at Bloomberg. Is this a necessary detail?
Well, where did you encounter her? Let's
I don't even know where I encountered. That's a great question. I have no idea where I encountered her. She's just one of those people that everybody knows and we don't really know why. And she ran an organisation called Inspirational You. And someone connected her with me, and I genuinely can't. All I know is I should remember meeting her for a sit down in the lobby at the Hilton on Bankside.
Ah. Okay.
And she was like, I'm running this organisation and I'm trying to pull together an advisory board and I'd love you to be on it. And I was like, really?
Wow.
Me?
How old
and
were
I
you
must have
then?
been early career, I don't know, 20?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe
Wow.
21?
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
old at all. And I was thinking, wow, okay, me? She's like, yeah, for everything you've done, the education, the kids. I was like, okay, sure. I don't know what this will do, but okay, I'll give it. It's just advice, right? How hard can it
wrong
be?
can this go?
And it's not only my advice. I was like, it's not just me that's on your. It's like, and I think there are 15 of us. So I got to see the inner workings of a board, and it was an informal one. It's not that we were trustees or anything like that.
Which is a lovely place to practice having a bit more responsibility.
Exactly. So I think that's maybe one story that I remember. The second one was having been on Sonia's board, and this is why it's important to give folks opportunities and to be open to the possibilities, right? Especially if you're someone that has the agency to be able to do that.
Yeah.
I was then working full-time on a graduate scheme at a bank, and there was a program that then came up that said that was young business in the community, I think it was, but they used to be called arts and business, I think was their kind of
Okay, I don't remember
that. But they were running a program called Young Professionals on Arts Boards.
Okay.
And so I remember as a grad, and it came through to us because we were grads, so they were specifically looking for young people on to join arts boards. And I thought, okay, cool. It's come through to me, a grad at a bank. An arts board is quite different from the normal space that I'd be on. But I'm a young professional, and so I've done that. They'll do the training. In fact, I think this is where I got to see Shoreditch House, actually. Now I remember how I got there. Did the training, and then they matched me up with a music charity in East London called UD Music, which I'm now the chair.
Isn't that a cool story?
I know, right?
Full
and so
circle.
that's like 13 years later. So now you can tell that I'm young plus 13. If not
Forever
14,
young,
I might be 14 years.
Forever
Always,
young.
always
You'll always
young.
be a child prodigy.
I'll always be a child. This is it. And so it was really interesting because then I got to understand trusteeship and governance and charity governance in a way that was maybe a little bit different from the corporate governance, the steering committees, all those things that I got to see and prepare docs for, but never really sat in the organisation that I was working in. And so that I would say those are my kind of two earliest memories of leadership in that kind of way.
That is so interesting. And I think, you've really hit on something there around getting an insight into how decision-making entities actually work in practice.
Yes.
And doing that at a time when you can genuinely contribute, but you don't feel the pressure of having to take total responsibility for everything that's being done.
Exactly.
And it is a privilege when you get inside those rooms, and lots of people maybe don't even know they exist and that there are routes into them.
Yes.
So we're hoping, this is a little bit of kind of sneak preview. We're hoping to do a special series that will help people work out how do they get into these kinds of opportunities when someone doesn't open the door for them.
Yes.
So
very
amazing,
needed. Very
really,
needed.
really fascinating. And then you had a successful career in kind of consult after banking. You've worked in tech and variety of things. What would you say is the next kind of big leadership threshold you crossed?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know if I know. The next big leadership threshold could have been starting STEMettes.
And did you
could have been starting. So I went on a bit of an interesting entrepreneurship journey. So I've always known I've wanted to run a business, a commercial business, mind you, which I'm not doing at the moment. I've always known I've wanted to run a commercial business since I was at uni. So that was one of the iterate, like I kind
one
of
the life goals.
Went on these every 3 years, kind of changed course. Yeah. And I started STEMettes kind of reluctantly and maybe half-heartedly.
Because you couldn't find anything else out there that was doing this?
Yeah, it was a New Year's resolution. All the best things are
not go to the gym.
Exactly. This is it. Other people started yoga.
Have a ginger shot each morning.
Yeah, this is it. And I started STEMettes I started the STEMettes project. In fact, I didn't even. It wasn't even a thing.
It was a sort of accidental.
It was like I'm going to give this maybe there's something in this.
Yeah.
So I blogged it. I blogged for a while internally at my company, and then I started externally, which is another good thing as well that folks should, if you're looking for kind of tips, early career rather than later career, but. where you can experiment, look for spaces you can experiment on in places, because there's so many skills that end up being transferable, that it was so much easier for me to blog internally. And my first blog would have been like 30 words, and by the end it was maybe 1,000 words. And I did it because I hated writing, but writing is a really important skill to have. And I did a maths and computer science degree, so you can imagine how much writing there was in that. Not much, for the listener. And so I ended up blogging in a big way. And there was a particular event that I went to, the Grace Hopper Celebration of Women in Computing, that I ended up blogging quite a lot about the things that I noticed there, things that I spotted. And then one of my blogs, I kind of posed it, and then I was like, yeah, actually, maybe I could be the person that does this. It turns out, having gone to this conference and reflected on this, that this is an important problem that needs to be solved. Yeah. And maybe there's an experiment to be done, or a project to be run, to see if you bring food, fun, and freeness along to it, and we don't look at STEM as something that happens at school and then forget that everything that happens in life here. Like Instagram was the biggest one. Like I remember just being obsessed with, these kids are on Instagram all day, every day. Yeah. This is this new app. And this was like the days when it wasn't contrived and using AI. It was just,
I remember it.
What you had for lunch, or the
innocent
Coachella,
days.
Whatever. Yeah. The innocent days, right? Heady innocent days of Instagram. And so I was like, it's weird. It's weird that these people are doing STEM things for girls, but they're not talking about Instagram. How is that? How are you doing? Yeah. How is that possible? And so I started STEMettes and tried to bundle up a load of things where I was like, hey, as a teenage girl now, this is what they're interested in, and it is already STEM. So just talk about that, and that you'd have them. And so started the STEMettes project. I also was a young person then, as we've established. And as a young person, I was saying this to one of our STEMettes yesterday, people give you money to try things because, why not, right? This is the time for you to experiment. And so started STEMettes with £300 from O2, because I was a young person. And this premise that, if we had a load of food and a load of fun and people that looked relevant to our young people.
And for our listeners, give us a scale of, from £300 and an idea, where are you now?
1.2 million maybe a year-ish. But, other donations and other money that folks might have down the back of the sofa would be well appreciated. Or not even down the sofa, wherever you keep your cash. And so it was a project, though. It was I'm just going to give this a go, because I have a job and I am in industry and I really enjoy my job and I'm paid really well to do my job. And then it was only by the end of the year we got called into number 10. Michael Gove was the then minister. David Willits was the then universities minister.
Yeah.
We were called the Insurgents. It was me, Science Girl, and maybe Little Miss Geek, who were called the Insurgents amongst others. And they were talking about quite a few of the crises that we have around STEM and girls. And I was like, wow, okay, this is 10 months in. That's mad. I've made it to number 10 months in on just my New Year's resolution.
Careful what you decide for next New Year's resolution.
I'm not doing those again, not doing that again. Not done New Year's resolution since. But then was also like, hey, I haven't slept this year. And sleep is important.
We like sleep on What We Don't Know. We talk about it a lot.
It's the most... have you talked about magnesium? Folks taking magnesium to sleep?
Feel free to add to the sleep theme.
I mean, and it's not a medical recommendation, and other minerals are available. But if you're struggling to sleep, magnesium, just pop some magnesium before you go to bed.
So with
STEMettes, so I was going to quit. I was going to close it. Yeah. And I said that to a couple of folks, and they said, no, you can't. I was like, well, okay, but I also have to sleep. So someone has to pay somebody to run around and organise these events. And then that was, the beginning of, again, testing a new social enterprise model.
Yeah. So it's amazing that you've done that, and you are contributing to systems change by, opening up that opportunity door and empowering these talented young women to go out and be successful and make change happen. But I know you, Anne-Marie, and you are somebody who is ambitious for change.
Yes.
So when we step back and look at where we are,
yes,
we're not done yet, are we?
Far from it.
So what are the changes in the world that you feel we need to be working harder at, working smarter at? What is it you'd like people listening to think about more than they may be otherwise thinking about?
There's a new one for every day of the week, right? On this. So okay, what is it to be Anne-Marie at this point? If we go back to where we started, it's that technology has always been influential, has always been a source of power. We're now in this fourth industrial revolution where we have a new set of technologies that have finally come to almost maturity, that are transforming life as we know it in the same way that steam did before and, previous industrial revolutions. We do not have the right people. We do not have the right mix of people making decisions on this technology, which means that where there's so much to be done and so much opportunity, and I love the technology for what is possible, we're falling short on the opportunity. We're falling short on the responsibility that we have to that technology for it to be used responsibly and to solve more problems than it's creating.
Yeah.
So my problem right now is that the science and tech community is not balanced, and it should be for a very long, and every day the list seems to get longer of why it's a problem that, I don't know, the health tech industry discovers the period for the first time every 4 years.
Yeah.
And so you have period trackers that track 10 days of your period. It took to the end of 2025 for us to have a crash test dummy based on a woman's body. Till the end of 2025 for us to have a crash test dummy that is the basis on which we rank and measure the safety of our vehicles, but also mandated by law. In most countries now you have to wear a seatbelt. So I possibly have never worn a seatbelt correctly in my life.
Or certainly not worn a seatbelt designed with women's bodies in mind.
In 2025, voice recognition software that doesn't understand Scottish and Irish accents, or the woman sat in the back of the car.
Yeah. So I can feel your frustration. I also I could add my own frustration to the mix.
It just gets longer.
There is a lot that we could cover in terms of the facets of what's not working.
Yes.
But you're not the sort of person that likes problem admiration.
No, far from it. I'm all about the solution.
So,
this is to add the context of why this is something that, it's so. Also, what we've said is so. It actually ends up feeling so narrow in a weird kind of way. Women are half of the population. I don't know what percentage of folks on the planet Earth have a brilliant Scottish accent, but the idea that now we have these frontier technologies, folks are getting excited about AI, about quantum, about cyber, right?
Yeah.
It's people like me that get excited about cyber. Most people aren't excited about cyber. They're worried about cyber, yes. But you have all these technologies, and I genuinely, you can see that if you had different people in the room asking ever so slightly different questions, prioritizing in a different way, being allowed to feel like they belonged in those rooms, being heard in those rooms, being valued in those rooms, we wouldn't have the danger that we are facing. We wouldn't have the dystopian headlines that we see. We wouldn't need to be as afraid of cyber if we had the right kinds of things. So what does that mean for leaders?
Yes, that's what I was going to come to.
That's what you're coming... Hyacin's also getting frustrated.
No. I have years
Just give
of
them the
experience
answer,
of
Anne-Marie.
managing my own frustration. No, I share you. No, I think there's a fine line between kind of a passion to help bring colour to what's sort of a blob of a problem, right?
Yeah.
I think we're in an age where a lot of this feels overwhelming. It's hard to, going back to where we're talking about you as a sort of child, it's hard for lots of us to feel any agency over what's happening in the way that technology is shaping our lives.
Definitely.
So I'm interested in us thinking about, well, what do we need the people in leadership roles? So if you take the tech and the science and the research and innovation community as a kind of whole group of influencers,
yes,
what is it you would like to see happening today in that group that you don't see happening, or at least not universally?
So it's so interesting that you say, because I think a lot of folks feel, like you said, disempowered or feel like they don't have the agency to change.
Yeah.
And what's the most interesting end of that is the folks who do hold that power.
Yeah.
Right. And so it ends up, it jars with me sometimes when I do meet folks like, oh, what should I, we really wanted to hire women, but I couldn't find them. And I'm like, okay, cool. So let's say you really wanted to have customers and you couldn't find them. Would that be okay?
Yeah.
So why is it not okay that you don't know how to? And then now you're asking me as if it's just something I'm going to just give you the one answer here, and then you can run, you can do it, and then your business will be like, it doesn't make it. It frustrates me. So what is the point? The point is really basic things like, are the women in your organization paid the same as the men to do the jobs that they're doing?
Yeah.
And do you know that?
Yeah.
Do you know? Many of them don't know, or it's hidden from them, or they do know and they're hiding and they're running away from it, and they've got all these reasons why those women should be paid less, rather than it being like, no. Let's move away from those reasons, excuses. What is the pay equity that you have in your organization? What are the pay gaps that you've got? How many times have you done those reviews of what's going? Do you understand the landscape? Yeah. Do you understand how it's moved, how it's changing? Do you understand why those things are happening? Because you should, the same way as you understand what happens with your customers, what's happening in your supply chain. There's also a big piece, a huge piece that folks haven't unpicked, and actually the leaders who have been able to do this well have seen that a little goes a long way. The second piece is the conduct that you have in your organizations and what you tolerate.
Yeah.
And we have this notion, we have this kind of lone genius, but you also have this kind of, they call it brilliant jerks.
Try not to visualize anyone specific at this point.
Try your best, try your hardest. You have these brilliant jerks. And it's so interesting and frustrating to me. So one tech leader once came up to me and he was like, "Oh, I really love what you're saying. You know, you're right. It's all really important. I had someone you have someone like lower down in the organization, and she was being bullied by somebody, and we moved her out of that team, and it kind of just kept talking. And you listen, because I'm like, maybe there's I don't know, maybe something good is going to happen at some point in this story. That's why you're sharing it with me." Or there's some insights, or maybe something you're going to say that's going to enlighten how you figured something out as you're going. It just got worse. And I had to stop him, but hang on a second. She was being bullied. What did her manager say? No, the manager was the bully. Pardon? So how do we trust that person to manage if they're the one bullying? And then you knew they were bullying, so you moved her out. But what happened to the manager that was doing the bullying? And in what environment was why was it tolerated that this manager was doing this bullying? Who else might the manager have been bullying that you don't know because the person didn't speak out?
Yeah.
What? Like so many layers of, okay, so this is this is what we now might be able to recognize as misconduct.
Yeah.
And there are several reasons, as you see in all spheres of life, why someone who is being bullied or is in this scenario might not be the first person to pipe up and say, my manager's bullying me, because we know what the repercussions might be for them. But you as a leader in your organization, how is this something that you're working on? Is this something you're aware of?
Yeah.
If you're not aware of it, what quality of leader are you? What kind of shop are you running here? And so I think you end up, and we're working on the task. You're on the task force with me, right? And so we're working through a lot of these details of how do we, since you don't have the answers, how do we support you to have those answers? But also, how do we hold you accountable? Because saying you don't know is only going to work for so long. When you're in the business, you've been doing this for so long. And there are a smattering of examples of where folks have followed, I know, the Tech Talent Charter, or followed all kinds of frameworks, or they've worked with consultants. God forbid we pay somebody to understand some of these things and to help us work it through in our organizations, to say we're going to look at what pay equity looks like. We're going to look at how we handle misconduct. We're going to look at what progression looks like. We're going to look at our recruitment practices.
Yeah, it's that whole systems view.
You have to take it.
Absolutely.
And as a leader, pick where you want to start and get on with it.
What's the most inclusive environment you've ever experienced?
Oh, what a question. The most inclusive environment.
Well, the reason I'm asking it is because, unfortunately,
the most inclusive.
The reality is that as an outlier in many respects in terms of leadership in tech, it's not obvious to me that you will have been in that many rooms where, gosh, isn't this inclusive as your first thought?
What I will say, I think there have been a couple. The one I will say, so on I really love my grad scheme, but that's not the one I'm going to say.
Okay.
What I will say is I did maths.
Runner-up.
You could say it's a runner-up.
Highly commended.
Do you know what? Yeah, highly commended. It was my first workplace so my manager, shout out to Gary, who's great, and I'm still in touch with him, and he's hilarious. My first, this is runner-up, by the way. Okay. My first workplace was so great and so inclusive for me.
Okay.
That doesn't mean it's inclusive for everybody. It was inclusive for me
what made it so
as I
inclusive
presented.
for you, aside from just a
That
great leader
I
in
had
Gary?
so much agency to do as I wished, how I wanted. I was heard. I was promoted.
You
I
could
was
be Anne-Marie.
valued. I was Anne-Marie.
Yeah.
To the point that I started STEMettes almost naively to be like, this is great. More people should be having this experience. There should be more me's here.
Yeah.
Started STEMettes, and then the floods of, hold on, it's not always inclusive. But what I will say, for me, again, personally, and these are all same as the magnesium. These are great in my life. Was my university experience. I did maths and computer science at Oxford University, at Keble College.
What made it an inclusive experience then?
Our senior tutor was a woman, a German woman called Gesine Reinhardt, who's also fantastic, Professor Gesine Reinhardt. She was on the maths side, she's a statistician. We had Stephen Clark, who was brilliant and was the sponsor of the OU Bell Ringing Society.
I did not know where you were going with that. Okay.
And Oxford was so inclusive for me as an experience that one of the only times I felt like an outsider was when we were sat in tutes, so tutorials.
Yeah.
And the guy the year ahead of me was a member of the Bell Ringing Society. And one of the guys in my year was in the Bell Ringing Society. And Stephen also was the senior fellow that
So you were
sponsored it.
isolated by your lack of bell ringing.
I didn't know bell ringing was even a thing. And I'm an East Londoner, so Bow bells, I get it. But
So
I'd
there
never
are
thought
many
that there were
dimensions
people
of
that ring bells.
diversity. I love that.
Yeah. And so they were so apparently anyway, if you group theory is a thing in mathematics, and apparently the way that they ring bells, there's it's like in line with the way that group theory is set up. And so there are particular, I don't know, like an abelian group.
Mathematical motivations to become a bell ringer.
If you want. If you want. I mean, they didn't capture me, but I just remember being like, even till today, I have no idea what I'm saying, what they were saying. I couldn't tell you whether it was an abelian group or what the group was, but all of them were like, that's that bell ring arrangement.
I am loving talking about bell ringing. This is a new area for me, but I have lots of other things that I need to talk to you about, Anne-Marie. So I'm going to just draw a line there.
Move it on.
Maybe we can return to it at another occasion. But thank you for that. I was not expecting bell ringing to feature in your answer. My mistake.
I wasn't included. I still have no idea.
Right. Okay.
I'm not included in the Bell Ringing Society.
So
Or community even, sorry.
I'm going to take us into a different lane now. Your career has so many dimensions to it. It's kind of hard to know where to go. But I feel it would be remiss not to talk about how you became a co-presenter on Countdown.
Yeah, that was not on my bingo.
So just for anyone who's not already aware of what this involves, tell us a bit about it.
So on Countdown is the world's longest running game show. It's on Channel 4. Apparently it's one of the first shows that was on Channel 4. So it's been there the whole time.
Yeah.
There's a whole generation who will know Carol Vorderman.
Indeed.
And Richard, I've forgotten his surname now.
I don't remember his name.
The other guy.
I can
rest in peace, the other Richard guy. I think his name's Richard. And now Rachel Riley presents it.
Who's like a
she's a mathematician. She was actually 2 years ahead of me at Oxford, so she was Oriel. And so she was one of my mates' college mums. But anyway, that's not even why we were connected. But anyway, there's not that many women who do maths who speak on stage. So we'd known of each other in those circles. The same as like a Hannah Fry would also be one of those people that we all just hang. Very exclusive groups and circles that I move in.
Very elite.
And
almost as elite as bell ringing.
Almost. She's an arithmetician. So the official title is arithmetician.
That's quite hard to say.
So you are one of the three presenters. There's a guy called Colin who now hosts it, who sits in Richard's seat. You have Susie Dent, who's been there almost the entire time, who sits in Dictionary Corner. Exactly. And then you have an arithmetician who's the only person you see from top to bottom, which means there's a little bit more work in wardrobe.
That's
for
pressure.
You. It is pressure. And Rachel does it. Rachel does so well for the amount of, because it's the new outfit and the shoes. She does the shoes that I just said, do you know what? It's really not me and I'm not going to do that. Thank you. So I just wore trainers the whole way through. And the trainers were visible, were seen, and they, took on their own kind of, life. Life.
They had their own followers.
Yeah, they had their own. That was their own thing. And then so as the arithmetician, you do the letters and the numbers. So you have letters rounds where you have 9 letters randomly selected and you have to make words. in a 30-second
But you don't have
window.
to make words. That's the important difference.
The
You do
contestants make
exactly. So
the words.
numbers and letters.
But I have to spell the words. And I, never made a spelling mistake the whole time through, which I think people don't lean in as much. But and folks say harder, but it's one of these things where you can say you don't do maths, but you can't say you can't read.
No,
which is another thing for a whole nother podcast for another day.
Yes, we could.
I spelt all the words right, but also you have to do arithmetic, which is, again, there are 6 numbers.
Yeah.
And you have 4 large-ish and then however many smaller ones. And again, it's randomly selected. You then hit a button and then a 3-digit number shows up, randomly generated. And then you have 30 seconds to use those numbers and basic maths operators.
There's this like clock ticking throughout just to add to the feeling of pressure.
30 seconds.
So what advice did Rachel give you when you took that on?
She gave me loads of advice.
What was her top tip?
Top tip. Oh, learn your 75 times tables. And it's because, yes, there are patterns and math is math and 25. But we all know our 25 times. We all do know our 25 time tables. But the 75s move slightly differently. So she said there was that. There was a lot of practice. She also did say, take your time. So because it's filmed as live, but it's not live. If you haven't got there, then just be like, just give me a bit more time. And they will give you a bit more time.
So what did you take away from that experience? Like, how did you evolve in your Anne-Marie-ness as a result of doing that very different gig to what you were doing the rest of your life?
I learned a lot. So it wasn't about the maths, although I will say that it's one thing to do. So one thing I learned, which I don't know if that's an Anne-Marie thing, I'm hearing your questions like, I'm going to answer this question instead, was that you... At home is very different from the studio.
Yes.
And so when you see anything on TV, just appreciate that I had to stand. So what folks won't know is it's a live feed in those 30 seconds from the numbers or the letters to the bottom of the screen.
Yeah.
So I couldn't stand in front of the... you have to think about where you're standing. And then Colin's camera then Anne's camera's on yours. So you've got that to keep up with.
Yeah.
You've got someone shouting in your ear. ISO. I don't know what it means. I still don't know what it means.
We'll ask the producers afterwards.
One of them's going to ask David to tell me. I don't know what the ISO means. They're shouting ISO. You've got the numbers and you're having to check someone else's work while they're shouting numbers at you.
Yeah.
So actually, the math is the easiest part of the job.
It's
so that's
kind of
one thing.
Signal integration.
All of those things. So then at one point, I'd then put on podcasts and then do maths while they were talking on the podcast. So then mean that I could almost simulate the studio experience. That was one thing. The main thing I learned, though, was about representation and the importance of representation, positively and negatively. Mm-hmm. So we finished filming all the episodes before the first one went out. That was how the filming schedule worked. Mm-hmm. And so I was able to watch in lifetime the reaction to this black girl in trainers.
Yeah, that's interesting because it's not like week by week you're seeing the reaction. You're just stepping back and seeing the response over the whole series.
And it was so funny. And the backlash. I actually saw the counter backlash before I saw the backlash. Because this was also when Twitter, was a thing. Because it's not anymore. And it was so interesting to see, people really are allergic to seeing a black woman doing maths in trainers. They really were allergic.
So you were just watching negative commentary essentially on social.
So I saw the counter. So I saw that. I thought it was like I died.
Oh.
But she's so. I saw that. No, she's great, and I'd be like, thanks. What are you replying to? And they'd be like, what kind of idiot puts a line through their 7? I'm a computer scientist. We have to know the difference between a 1 and a 7. Wow. So it was so interesting for me because I could see the defense that people were coming to for me because this was such a public backlash. But it helped me reframe a little bit more again of like all the work that I do of that's a public counter backlash to the public backlash. So what happens in private?
Yeah. So it's quite a bruising experience to go through. I mean, it's also strange to see yourself as a kind of lightning rod for public opinion in that way.
Yes.
So when you step back from that and kind of the dust has settled, you're not having to do it tomorrow. What do you feel about it? Are you glad you appeared on Countdown?
I'm very glad I did it because the positive side of the representation is I still now, and I did it during COVID. So also I wasn't out and about in the street. People weren't out and about. So I didn't get it in person.
No.
at the height of it, which also I think was really good for my mental health.
Yeah.
But I still get folks now being like, yeah, my gran loves you, or yeah, my son loves you, or yeah, my daughter loves you. And it's really nice because as you're doing it, you're so far removed from who's going to see it, which is the nature of TV and the nature of, I'm so far removed from your listener and your viewer, other than your mum, right? And so it's so powerful even now.
Yeah.
The strength of that representation, going into people's homes and doing the maths is the element that it's like, hey, if she can do the maths, then it's normalized it in a much bigger way than I'd ever imagined.
So it's the upside and the downside of embracing such a public platform is you have that opportunity to connect with people and to change perceptions at scale. But you also elicit a lot of views from people who have nothing to do with you whatsoever and who feel no responsibility for how that makes you feel.
But also to see the I think it's the allergy. I mean, you've articulated much better than I did, but it's the allergy. So, it was understanding, it was seeing, it was feeling that visceral. Like, it's less about the responsibility. It's more that was really a response that was elicited in these people.
So how does that influence the kind of support you give to your STEMettes or to other people who, are in your network and look at you as a source of inspiration around what you need to build as a future visible role model or leader, however you want to describe it? What's the learning that you can take through into how you support others who are earlier in that journey? So
the learning that I take through, which is interesting because the next generation, I think because of the nature of the relationship they have with media, what they've seen on socials and the rest of it, I think they are already more aware of what it is to be a seen person. Yeah. And so I think the learning I end up taking in is that, hey, being seen doesn't mean that you can't still set your own tone, set your own expectations, set that your desires aren't valuable or aren't valued or aren't important because you're, what will people say? Like there's even more, when you're young, when you're a teenager, you're very aware of how are you going to be perceived? What are they going to like me? Or the rest of that. And you can imagine how that's like 10x, 100%, 100x, whatever it would be exponential now. So I think the biggest learning is that, actually, it doesn't matter what other people are going to project onto you. Even more so that even more eyeballs might be on you at the moment. You still can set your course. You can still be your authentic self. Yeah. And if you see the longer term of the story that you're telling, that's something to lean into. So the example I have is yesterday, one of the STEMettes I was with at this event that we went to has had a really tough time having full starts with different employers and different people that she's engaged with. And it's really interesting to reflect to her and be like, look, things aren't going to be perfect the whole way along. You have your expectations for what you want, but actually all these blips end up being a part of the story that you end up telling, rather than it being something you need to be ashamed of or you need to be upset about or that you need to be. Okay,
so I'm going to do a couple of questions, like still discussion questions, and then we're going to have quickfire at the end.
Okay, so I like that.
We're coming towards the end.
I'm going to try and be quick and sound bites.
So staying with this theme of the next generation, one of the areas that you have also developed quite a bit of expertise in is the future of work.
Yes.
So every parent and every teenager is thinking about, what world am I going into or what world is my child going into? And what can you share from your learnings to help those of us who are not so deep in the data think about, what does a good decision look like in terms of preparing for your future career, in terms of the kind of mindset you're going to need? Give us some help there, Anne-Marie.
Lots of help is here to be offered. I think the number one question I get asked, which we're about to, I don't know, we're going to have to do some series of some sort on it for STEMettes. And we realised yesterday for teachers as well as for parents, is around what's the future skills? Like what should they learn? Should they learn to code? Should they learn AI? Do we still need to go and learn a language from the other side of the world? There's two, they always say there's two buckets of skills now that folks need to pick up on, lean into. And as a parent, if you can nurture these, then go ahead and do it. One is what we call these STEAM skills. So as I said at the top, one of them is these STEAM skills. So as I said at the top, with STEMettes, we focus on STEM and STEAM now.
Yeah, with the arts and design and culture, creativity and all of that.
Exactly. And we do that because, yes, that's the true heart of innovation, but also no matter what happens next, creativity, collaboration, communication, critical thinking, citizenship are all things.
See what you did there with your C's.
Thank
I love
you.
a bit
The
of
5
alliteration.
C's, right? And it's 5, an odd number, right? So that people remember them. This is what is going to stand folks in good stead. The Institute for the Future of Work, we do lots of work, lots of things out there. Most of them are accessible. That's kind of the point of what we're trying to do, because it's for public good, not purely about kind of corporates and employers. We had a look and we tracked over, and we continue to do this over a time period. If you look at job descriptions of roles that people are hiring for, what are the skills that are required from them? And you see different things ebb and flow. Yeah. But what you do see stays there, stays consistent, stays at the top. Collaboration, communication, creativity, critical thinking. They won't put citizenship in as so many words, but it's those kinds of it. And so no matter what happens in the roles and the jobs that happen next, those are things that will still be needed from the humans, that the technology, no matter what it is, AI, quantum, higi haga, goo goo gaga, there's always going to be something new, right? In this new brave new world. Those skills will be needed, will stand them in good stead, and are ones that you can nurture in your children as you explore with them, as you develop, as you talk to them, as you develop their skills, as you have experiences, as you build capital for them and around them. The second bucket are those more technical skills. And the number one that I put is data literacy.
Interesting.
And I know numeracy, like there's so many things that can kind of fall into this, but essentially when we think about, so many of these things are going to be data driven. And when we talk about data now, there are certain things that we are collecting in data that's easy to collect. Times, names, music, images. We're going multimodal very soon, which means that smells, feelings, there's other things, weaving. There's an organisation involved with that they're trying to bring back weaving techniques that have been lost by unpicking it and then and digitising that so we can understand it. And so you have to have a data literacy to say, yes, data covers lots of things, but data is not neutral.
No.
Data is not total.
Yeah.
And data actually can never tell the full story, because so much has already happened that we didn't capture, that we will never be able to go back and go.
It's like a core navigational skill, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
But if you have that appreciation of data and the ups and the downs of it, then the way that you approach this technology, the way that you use it, the way that you engage with it. Yesterday, we were talking on my Instagram about period tracking.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, okay, actually, should you keep that data there? And then we got into a bit of a joke at the end of actually, you should keep it encrypted. So then if anyone is going to see it, they don't understand, and so she was literally like, she keeps it encrypted in her notebook. Right. Or the other kind of extreme example is when my best friend got married, on the marriage register, they asked for her father's occupation, not her mother's occupation. I got married after COVID.
Yeah.
And so my mother's occupation and my father's occupation are on the marriage register with my marriage. So for the whole of eternity, from COVID backwards,
insane,
we don't know what people who got married mums did.
Yeah.
We have no idea. Yes, you can infer it from other places, but that is a core data set we just don't have. So if there are decisions you're going to make where somehow the AI draws on that as a data point, whose fault is that? We can't, the data is biased. And what are you going to do? Go back and dig up all the graves and ask them what their mothers did? And so when I talk to parents, I talk to people, it's like, actually, so many things will change, but there are many things that will stay the same. Or there are many things that will continue to give you your advantage, that no matter what happens next, if you have that appreciation for life is more complicated than the numbers.
Yes. But we need the numbers too.
I'm a mathematician. Don't get me wrong on that. But there we go. Soundbite.
So my question is now turning around and for you and looking to the future for you, Anne-Marie.
Yes.
You have achieved a lot at the very young age that you still are. We don't need to give a number attached to that. But when you look ahead, what is it that really excites you about things that you haven't yet managed to accomplish that you want to throw yourself at? So we know you want to start a company. We know, we've got a real sense of some of the inequities in the world around us that you're committed to solving. But what about for you personally?
What excites me is that my definition of success has always been that when I wake up in the morning, I'm doing what I want to do. And so what excites me is that in the long term, the proportion of days in any given year that is the truth are only going to grow, are only going to increase, but also that I genuinely have no idea what comes next.
Yeah.
Like my life is so, people think there's no plan. My life is so random. And like every 3 years I'll be like, oh wow, that's the thing. And it's I'm the chancellor of a university. What? I think it's wild.
You mean that wasn't number one in your career plan when you were 13?
With the robes and it's a fantastic universe. And so I have it's exciting that in 10 years' time, When I am finally, maybe not as young as I have been.
You're
my
nearly
whole life.
as old as me, but not quite.
Who knows? Then what on earth is? So that's what excites me. Is I have no idea what comes next, but I do know that the older I get, the more agency I have over the enjoyment of it, and also the more experience I have that I'm able to bring to those things.
Yeah.
If the minister had called me up 10 years ago, I'd have only been 3 years into STEMettes, and they probably wouldn't have called me. Let's be honest. But if they did, by some quirk, I wouldn't have known.
And
half of the stuff that I know now.
I think, first of all, I have to say a huge thank you for answering a scattergun array of questions.
Answering is doing a lot of heavy lifting in that sentence.
Forcibly. We really enjoyed that. Your job is not quite done. Just gonna finish off. This is like dessert or petit four with coffee, right?
Yes.
With a little bit of a quickfire round.
Hit me.
What does a great day in the life of Anne-Marie look like?
I wake up at 7. I work out. I'm out the door before 9. Off to a STEMettes event. We're done by 4:30. Leave the building at 5:30. And I can get in, get dinner, and do 90 minutes of watching of something cool.
And when the universe doesn't deliver you a day like that, maybe it delivers you the exact opposite of that. You've had a really miserable day, you get home.
Yes.
I'm sure it doesn't happen very often, but when it does, what picks you up? What cheers you up?
The next day I'm probably going to be at a STEMettes event. Food picks me up.
Okay.
If it's been an awful day and I feel terrible, I'll go for a walk and I'll probably put an episode of The Office or something on. Okay. So that picks me up. Right. But genuinely, I'm never that far from a STEMettes event or reading a STEMettes impact report.
Okay.
And then I feel 10 times better.
It's basically the antidote to everything.
Yeah.
Okay, we talked about food. What's your signature dish?
Biang biang noodles.
Okay, excellent. That's a good short answer. Okay, since there seem to be quite a lot of opportunities now to go and live full time, or at least, temporarily at number 10, if you're Prime Minister for a day, what would you do first?
I'll make sure that there's a 5G signal on the estate. Genuinely. The better answer to that is I would equalise, or I would bring to level the shared parental leave.
Okay.
The paternity leave and maternity leave, like the financial elements of the
Okay, so we get the 5G sorted and then you'd be on to...
Then I would do that. But I need the 5G in order to do that. So maybe it's all one answer.
It's all the same. What's been your most uncomfortable or embarrassing moment as a leader?
I've got an uncomfortable one.
All right, go for it.
God, it's not quick. It's not... The short story is I, as the board member of various organisations, sit on recruitment panels.
Yes.
One time, we were interviewing a number of candidates and a fellow panel member completely discredited the only female candidate that we had coming through. And I felt very uncomfortable and very annoyed because of how he'd done it.
Okay.
One of the other candidates was his friend.
You do a lot of public speaking.
Yes.
What do you like as your walk-on track?
Fish Go Deep by The Cure and the Cause. That's always it. No one should ask me that question ever again. Now you all know. I've told you once. There you go. Take it.
I'm tempted to ask what's on your rider, but I'm not going to. What's the best advice you've ever either got or given?
Got is People Are Messy.
What book has been most influential to you?
Invisible Woman.
Invisible Woman, amazing book.
Caroline Perez.
And finally, because this show is called What We Don't Know, what is it that you know now that you wish you'd known earlier?
Well, I definitely know. I wish I knew ethnomathematics was a field earlier.
Great answer. Let's just leave it at that. Anne-Marie Imafidon, thank you so much for sharing your life story with us. We have learnt so much and it's been a joy. Well, Anne-Marie is always amazing value. She has so much energy and a real sense of her own individuality, which is just a joy to experience firsthand. And I hope that you got a sense of, what an extraordinary person she is to have started off as a child prodigy, which is quite a title to live with, even though she sort of made light of it. Not everybody who's had that title attached to them has fared so well as an adult. And I really enjoyed listening to her talking about how she grew into the portfolio life that she now has. And, you know, that sort of sense of give yourself space to experiment, try and find opportunities to practice skills that you don't have, learn new stuff. You know, her example of doing the blogs, like build a skill or muscle that you didn't have in a safe place, or try and get into advisory groups or places where you can sit and observe as well as contribute. You could see how that helped to build her skill set so that she could go on and actually fulfill this kind of huge ambition for positive change that is innate in her. And then looking at her life now, I really like the way she talked about her portfolio. This idea that you think about work, life and legacy from the start. How is this additional opportunity I'm given or responsibility that someone's offering me or that I'm seeking out for myself, how is that building what I already can do? You know, what's the additionality? I thought that was a great practical way to think about how you assemble a set of activities that add up to something really meaningful in your life. And I don't think you need to wait till you're kind of at the peak of your career to do that. You could hear that she was doing that all the way through. I also loved her definition of success, that it's waking up in the morning and feel excited about what you're doing. And it's a number of days in your year that you feel that. That's such a kind of clear, relatable thing, but actually not really how most people describe success in a work context. And she was also super practical and clear about, you know, how we integrate all this information about how the world is changing to make good decisions about how to support young people and even, you know, how we ourselves as adults build our own kind of master plan for being able to access employment and opportunity in the future. So her kind of focus on the human skills, things that are to do with our innate humanity, our creativity, and the kind of sense of what citizenship means, those sorts of her 5 C's. And then alongside that, to really, really lean into our ability to navigate and deploy data in a thoughtful way. So, wow, I hope you got something out of that episode. I think there was something for everyone. But yeah, that was a really entertaining, informative, enlightening hour or so that we just spent together. Thanks so much for joining us. Really, really appreciate your company. And please do keep in touch. We read all your messages and we look forward to hearing from you. Take care.